So today we're going to do a deep dive into the mind of Holden Caulfield, who is, let's be honest, maybe literature's most famous rebel. We are about to tag along with him on this wild, kind of frantic 2-day trip through New York City. He's on a search for something, anything, real in a world that he thinks is just completely fake. It's a story that has basically defined teenage angst for generations, and we're going to get into exactly why.
All right, so let's get right into it. We're not just talking about some character in a book here. Holden Caulfield is a full-blown cultural icon. I mean, he is the blueprint for teenage rebellion, a voice for anyone who's ever felt like they just don't fit in. But you gotta understand, his anger isn't just for show. It comes from a really deep personal tragedy that completely shattered his view of the world.
You know, right from the very first line of the book, you know exactly what you're in for. Holden just comes right out and says he's not going to give you any of that David Copperfield kind of crap. He's not here to follow the rules or tell some boring, predictable story. With that cynical, super direct voice of his, he's basically telling you, look, forget all that, I'm going to tell you how things really are.
Okay, this slide, this is the heart of the whole story. Holden's world is pretty much split down the middle. On one side, you have the phonies, all the hypocrites, the fakers, the people he just cannot stand. And on the other side, a tiny, precious list of people he sees as real and good. His little brother Allie, who passed away, his childhood friend Jane, and his little sister Phoebe. His entire journey really is this constant battle between all that phoniness and his desperate need to find something, anything, genuine.
So our story really kicks off right at a breaking point. Holden's about to be kicked out of his boarding school, Pencey Prep. This isn't a graduation, it's an expulsion. And this is basically the starting pistol for his escape into New York City.
Yeah, his last few hours at Pencey are just one letdown after another, and it pushes him right to the brink. For starters, he's failed 4 of his 5 classes. His history teacher, Mr. Spencer, gives him this really phony lecture about how life is a game and you have to play by the rules. Then he tries to do something real. He pours his heart into an essay for his roommate Stradlater about his brother Allie's baseball glove. It's this really sacred memory covered in palms. And what does Stradlater do? He just brushes it off.
And here's the kicker. That same roommate, Stradlater, is about to go on a date with Jane Gallagher, a girl Holden really cares about, who he sees as pure and innocent. So you've got the disrespect for his brother's memory combined with this intense need to protect Jane, and it all just explodes into this sad, clumsy fight. That was it. That was the final straw. This is the moment he just completely cuts ties. He's been beaten up, nobody understands him, he feels totally alone, and he stands in the empty dorm hallway and just yells this into the darkness. The decision's made. He's out of there. He grabs his stuff and heads for New York in the middle of the night.
All right, so now he's in New York, and you'd think, great, freedom, but not really. The city doesn't exactly welcome him. It just feels like this huge, lonely place. His whole night just becomes this chaotic, desperate search for one real human connection.
I mean, just look at how this night plays out. It is a total downward spiral. He checks into a cheap hotel, then tries and fails to flirt with 3 tourists in a bar. Then he's off to another club where he gets all worked up over some piano player he thinks is a phony, and it gets so much worse. He agrees to have a prostitute sent to his room, but when she gets there, he just wants to talk. And how does that end? With her pimp, Maurice, beating him up and taking his money. Every time he reaches out, he just ends up more alone.
So all through this awful night, he keeps asking this one weird question to every cab driver he gets. Where do the ducks go when the pond freezes over? Of course, this isn't really about birds, right? It's about him. What do you do when your whole world turns cold and hard? Where do you go to find a safe place?
The next day is pretty much more of the same. He tries to connect with an old girlfriend, Sally Hayes, and it ends in a complete and total disaster. Holden just kind of snaps and begs her to run away with him right then and there, to live in a cabin. When she, logically thinks he's gone crazy, he insults her. And just like that, he's all alone again.
So now he's hit absolute rock bottom. He's drunk, he's broke, he's freezing his butt off in Central Park, and there's only one thing left to do. He decides to go home. He has to sneak in, trying not to get caught, for one reason, to see his little sister Phoebe. She's his last hope, the only person in the world he feels is 100% real.
And there, in her room, Holden finally lets his guard down,
But Phoebe, this kid, is smarter than all the adults in this story combined. She doesn't just coddle him. She looks right at him and says something that just cuts through all his nonsense. It's the most important question in the whole book. "You don't like anything," she says. "Can you name just one thing you actually like?"
And being challenged like that by his little sister, he finally admits this one strange, beautiful dream he has. He doesn't want to be a lawyer or some big shot. He just wants to be the catcher in the rye. He pictures himself standing in a field of rye right next to a cliff, and his only job is to catch little kids if they start to run too close to the edge being that fall from childhood innocence into the phony adult world that he's so terrified of.
Now, you might think that confession would be a turning point, but it's not. Not yet. His pain is just too deep. After he leaves Phoebe's room, another bad encounter seals the deal for him. He's going to do it. He's going to run away out west and just disappear. But first, he has to say one last goodbye to Phoebe.
Yeah, his plan is the ultimate escape. He's going to head out west and pretend to be a deaf mute. That way, he won't have to deal with any phony conversations ever again. He leaves a note for Phoebe, telling her to meet him at the museum so he can say goodbye for good.
And this is the moment the entire story has been building towards. Phoebe shows up, all right? But she's not just there to say bye. She's dragging a suitcase behind her. "I'm going with you," she tells him. And in that one instant, Holden is forced to see himself and his plan to run away through her eyes.
And that's what changes everything. He might be fine with destroying his own life, but he absolutely will not destroy hers. He can't drag her down with him. And for the very first time in this whole book, he stops thinking about his own pain and starts thinking about protecting someone else.
So he takes her to the carousel in Central Park. It starts to pour rain, but he doesn't even move. He just sits there on a bench in his silly red hunting hat and watches his sister go around and around. And this is it. This is the breakthrough. For the first time, he feels a moment of pure, honest-to-God joy. He says he feels so damn happy.
This is the turning point, right here, in this moment. Watching Phoebe on that carousel in the rain, all his cynicism, all that armor he's built up, it just gets washed away. The running finally stops. He found it. He found that one beautiful, real moment of connection that he'd been looking for the whole time.
We eventually find out he's telling us this whole story from some kind of hospital arrest home. So it's not exactly a happy ending, but there's a glimmer of hope there. And his central question, well, it never really gets answered. It just kind of hangs there for us to think about. In a world that so often feels phony, and when we're dealing with our own pain, how do we protect innocence? How do we protect the things that are real?